Good evening. I'm Stuart Fisher, your producer and director for this evening's performance. Tonight, Just a Stage I'm Going Through Productions is proud to present a special presentation, a Zoom reading of Stephen LaRocque's play, September 11th Was a Tuesday. The play examines the effect of the September 11th, 2001 attack on the Pentagon from the point of view of two government employees, Antoinette, who was injured in the attack and is undergoing therapy, and her colleague Vivian, who brings Antoinette to and from her therapy sessions. The play had its on-stage premiere with the Quotidian Theater Company in Bethesda, Maryland in 2004. As a copyrighted work of the author, Stephen LaRocque, this performance will not be publicly available or an archive to YouTube, as have Just a Stage I'm Going Through's other productions. Neither the play nor this performance may be duplicated without the express consent of the playwright, Mr. LaRocque. The playwright is here this evening and will be available after the presentation to participate in a talkback with audience members and the cast. I now ask the cast to turn on their videos and introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Hume, like Zoom, though I go by Jackie, and I'll be playing Antoinette Demers.
I'm Heather Fife, and I'll be playing Vivian Warnicki.
I'm Sarah Lockhart, and I'll be playing Susan Bartlett.
I am Greg Lang, and I will be playing Sean Davison.
My name is Omar Letieri, and I'll be playing Victor.
And if that's everybody else, I'm Erin Klarner, and I'll be reading Ella.
Thank you. I ask you now to turn off your videos, please. And we now, without any further ado, sit back and relax. And we now present to you September 11th Was a Tuesday by Stephen LaRocque.
It is not. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Not what?
November.
Of course it is. November 26th.
I don't care what the calendar says. Do you know what it got down to last night? 59 degrees. Down. What is that? I should not be running my air conditioner in the last week of November.
They said on Thanksgiving it got up to 82.
November should be frosty. Frost on the pumpkin, frost on your windshield.
What are we waiting for? I thought you were done.
I am.
Then why aren't we going?
Because we're staying.
Why are we staying?
They want to start something new.
What?
Balance therapy. I have to see the therapist today at 3:45. Another therapist.
Today?
Do you mind?
I'll wait.
It's not a real appointment, just an orientation.
When do the real appointments begin?
Tomorrow. Sean at 12, the new one at 3.
How's it going with Sean?
The man is a barbarian. Ugh. He has a need to see people in pain.
The pain is necessary. He explained all that. He needs to make your new skin work the way the old skin did.
The old skin was nothing special. It did all kinds of things I didn't want it to.
Why don't you think of it as a second chance?
Vivian, do you have to be so positive? I'm trying to feel sorry for myself.
I heard about a woman who was burned over 70% of her body.
If only he wouldn't talk so much.
Who?
Sean. He thinks out loud. The last thing I want to do when I'm in agony is to follow somebody's train of thought, especially when it takes all the scenic routes that his does. Are they going to put me through a year of this?
They'll put you through whatever it takes.
Where did she work?
Who?
The woman who was burned over 70% of her body?
The D-ring, I think. third floor, fourth corridor, something like that.
That's where it hit.
She got out before the floor collapsed.
Is she here?
No, they sent her to the Washington Hospital Center. That's where the bad cases went. See, you're not a bad case. When is your orientation?
3. You don't have to come.
Of course I do.
I can get there myself.
You can't.
And I can get back.
Antoinette, you have to have somebody with you.
I am not an invalid.
You had burns over 20% of your body. Your balance is gone.
I've got all the balance I ever had.
No, you don't. When you took that fall, it did something to your equilibrium.
I did not take a fall.
What did you do?
I passed out.
That's a fine distinction.
Whatever I did, it had nothing to do with my present condition, whatever that is.
Why did they do all those scans of your head?
That was their idea, not mine. There's nothing wrong with my head.
I'm tired.
Then sit down.
No, Antoinette. I'm tired of chewing on the same old bone.
What bone?
Every time I pick you up, it's the same arguments. You say the therapist is killing you. I say he's doing what's best. You say they're making your symptoms up. I say you've got a long way to go before you get well. And until you do, it's dangerous for you to be out alone. You know that it's true. It's always been true. And it's time that you got used to it. The rest of us have. We're just waiting for you to catch up.
I don't mean to be a pest.
You are, but we love you anyway. And until you get your hall pass back, we're going to look after you, whether you like it or not. Evelyn will bring you on her lunch hour, and I will pick you up for as long as it takes for you to get well.
And what if I don't?
Don't what?
Get well. You could be stuck with me forever.
Antoinette, you will get well. If there's anyone on earth who will get through this in spite of herself, that person is you. The rest of us may go crazy trying to deal with you, but you will get well.
I don't mean to be difficult.
You are, but you're entitled, I suppose.
I just can't figure it out.
Figure what out?
What it was all about.
Why don't you be grateful you're alive and leave it at that?
I am. I will. But I still don't know what they were trying to do.
They were trying to attack the Pentagon. In case you missed the news, they succeeded.
But what was their purpose?
To kill people, apparently.
But they crashed the plane into the E-ring.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The E-ring. So?
Why the E-ring?
Because it's the farthest one out. When you crash an airplane into the Pentagon, it's the first one that you hit. But it didn't stop there.
How far did it go?
The B-ring, I think. I'm amazed it didn't go all the way through.
And that proves my point.
What point?
Think, dear. What's in the E-ring?
Offices?
What kind of offices?
Big offices with a view.
Are you still on that view thing?
Only because of Suzanne Kelleher.
Who is Suzanne Kelleher?
You remember, she worked in J34 with Dottie and Ethel.
She couldn't do PowerPoint.
Not with a gun to her head.
But didn't she go to work for some undersecretary of something?
Undersecretary of Defense for Low Intensity Conflicts.
Whatever that is.
I put in for that job.
Really?
I didn't want it necessarily. It was a lateral, and you know how laterals are.
They don't get you anywhere.
But she put in for it, and I did too. And she got it. I can't imagine how. And I didn't, and that's all right. A lateral doesn't necessarily get you anything.
Except of you. Was this undersecretary of something or other on the E-ring?
It was. It wasn't anything special. I've only been in there once. I was not impressed. It was a broom closet, no storage space at all. I wouldn't have lasted a week.
But it had a view.
The mall, the tidal basin, the monuments.
You can't see all that from one window.
You can if you want to. She had a view of the mall, and I had a view of the concrete in the D-ring.
Did Suzanne Kelleher survive?
I guess. I've never heard that she didn't.
So the terrorists weren't targeting Suzanne Kelleher in spite of her view.
Probably not.
So, who were they trying to kill?
I have no idea.
Sure you do.
Well, important people.
Mhm.
Rumsfeld, the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I don't think so.
When does your appointment start?
20 minutes? Do you really think the terrorists were trying to assassinate the military leadership?
Yes, I do. And about 100 million other people do too. How can you not be sure? They were targeting the symbols of America, the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, probably the White House. But symbols aren't just buildings. People can be symbols too.
I agree, and that supports my point.
What point?
Who did they kill?
What do you mean, who?
Symbols? Important people?
I don't know.
Did they kill a general?
I don't think they did.
One. An army 3-star chief of something or other.
Personnel.
Right! So, except for him, who did they kill? Worker bees like us.
Maybe they were just trying to wipe out as many people as they could.
I thought about that.
I should have known.
It doesn't fit.
Why not?
Think about it, dear. If you want to kill a lot of people at the Pentagon, where do you crash the plane? Not the E-ring. That's where the fewest people are. You aim at the concourse, the bus stop, the inner courtyard, any place but where they did.
Maybe they didn't know what is where at the Pentagon.
Oh, Vivian, come on! All that preparation, flight lessons, training in Afghanistan, those people were prepared. They were totally prepared to kill however many they wanted to.
I give up. I don't know. Maybe we'll never know. But it never should have happened.
Do you still think about it?
All the time.
Because you survived?
Yes.
So did I.
But you got hurt. Nothing happened to me at all.
Do you feel left out?
Maybe I do. It sounds strange, I know, but I can't help it. I feel guilty,
You don't need to.
but I do.
What happened to Anita?
What do you mean? She died.
Wasn't she supposed to be at a class or something?
It got canceled.
You didn't tell me.
Antoinette, nobody else survived. Just you and Hector and I.
Did you go to her funeral?
I went to all of them. All that I knew about. They sent Marian's remains back to Indiana.
I didn't know she was from there. Did you go to Alma's?
Her mother was there. That was so sad.
I should have gone.
You couldn't.
I should have been there.
That's crazy. You were in the hospital for 2 weeks.
I didn't need to be. They were just repeating tests.
You were burned over a fifth of your body.
I could have gone with the 4/5 that was left.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not saying it's easy, Vivian. I know how hard it can be just to live every day. I wake up. I realize I'm still alive. The first thing I do is sit up in the bed. Sometimes it can take an hour. The pain cuts me in half. But still, I do it. I force myself to do it because not doing it means giving up, and I will not give up. So I sit up, straight in the bed. I never realized before how many tiny processes are going on in our bodies all the time, and how they have to work exactly right just for life to go on. But I know I could have done it. I should have gone to Alma's funeral.
Antoinette, are you aware that you nearly died? You came this close. I saw your name on a list. Deceased.
Really?
1,000 people called. Edna called.
Edna? Where's she now? Some beach? Daytona Beach? How is she?
She was frantic about you. At first, nobody knew. The hospital wouldn't give out any names. I got home that night. It seemed like everybody in the world had left a message on my answering machine. I didn't get back to Edna until midnight. She was still sitting up watching the news. Everybody was.
Do they like Florida?
They love it. Charlie plays golf every day. Edna's doing pottery. She says she misses the Pentagon. Imagine that. She wouldn't miss it now.
What is it like?
You know,
I don't. I haven't been back.
it depends on where you're coming from. If you're riding on the yellow line and you see it as you cross the river, it's like nothing has changed at all. But if you come the other way from Arlington, you can see the gash where the airplane hit. It looks like an open wound, still bleeding.
What about inside?
A lot of the life is gone. They're not giving tours anymore. The cadets from the academies are gone. The contractors schmoozing in the corridors. The smell of smoke is everywhere. They have air quality monitors all over the place. They say it's safe, but I don't think anyone believes it. The offices that were hit are scattered all over the city now.
Will it ever come back?
It will.
I wonder.
Oh, Antoinette, come on. We can't just throw up our hands and say, isn't it awful what happened? And how are we going to get on with our lives? Of course, we mourn and come to closure and all of that. But eventually we have to get back to work.
You can do it without me.
What do you mean?
I've decided to retire.
I've heard this before.
This time, I mean it. I've earned it. It's time. I'm going. And once I go, I will never look back.
Have you put in your SF-52?
HR is working on it.
Do you have your date?
2nd of February.
February? It's all over with the luncheon.
I don't want a luncheon.
You have to. You can't retire without a luncheon.
I want to go. I've had it. I'm sick of the crazy hours, the meetings, the micromanagers, the big egos with their big agendas that they leave in a heap when they move on. Who would miss that?
I remember your last luncheon. It was nice. I had the chicken marsala. What did you have?
Shrimp, I think.
I still have the mince.
You do?
Somewhere. Here. Oh, look. 2. Have one.
Thanks. Not bad.
So you really want to go?
In a minute, if I could.
Won't you miss us?
Who is there to miss? Except for you and Hector, everybody's gone.
I wonder why.
Why what?
Why we're still here and they're not.
You went to buy a card.
I don't mean that.
Vivian, don't make it bigger than it is. You didn't die because you were in the card shop on the concourse when the airplane crashed. You never even told me what you went to get.
A condolence card for Felicia. Her mother died. Now Felicia's gone. Everybody is, except for you, Hector, and me. I thought of the strangest thing.
What?
Donuts.
Donuts?
Donuts. Remember how Alice, whenever she would call a meeting, would go down to the bakery and buy a dozen donuts for the group? Even if it was only 3 or 4, she'd buy a dozen. And when the meeting was over, she'd just put out whatever was left.
Alice's donuts were my downfall.
Cake, donuts,
Stop!
chocolate glaze, nuts sprinkled all over the top.
A mortal sin. Oh.
She had a meeting that morning with some people from GAO. I was walking past the conference room just as she was setting them out. I just barely stepped in the door. I didn't want to look like I was interested. She pointed at one and said, "This has your name on it."
Did you take it?
No. It was before 10. I still was within my willpower window. I said I'd come back later and see if there was any left, and if there were, I would consider it. She said, "Don't wait too long." The way she always did. Don't wait too long. It was the last thing she ever said to me. When the airplane hit, Hector and I were in the A-ring, 7th corridor. Hector had wanted to get something from the Air Force gift shop there. We heard the explosion, but we didn't know where it was coming from, outside or in. We couldn't tell. People were rushing out of offices, heading towards South Parking, so we followed them. We were all like power walkers going in the same direction, as if we knew where we were going. But we really didn't, because we didn't know where the danger was. It wasn't until we got outside, across the bridge, that we saw the smoke. Black, angry smoke against the purest blue September sky that I have ever seen. We moved away as fast as we could, out into South Parking and up the hill. People were gathering in groups, making lists, trying to figure out who hadn't made it out. We looked for anyone we knew. People with cell phones were trying to call out, but nobody could because everybody was trying at once. A few people panicked and the Arlington fire trucks began to arrive. Pentagon police kept moving farther back and we still hadn't seen anybody we knew. Finally, I saw someone I knew from OSD. I couldn't remember his name, but I asked him if he'd seen anyone come out of our office, 2nd floor, C ring, 4th corridor. He said that was where the airplane hit. And that's when I realized it was an airplane.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. A bomb, I guess? 2 contractors had been working in a trailer just outside the 4th corridor by the helipad. They saw it come overhead just before it crashed. The impact was so big, one guy's monitor hit him in the face. The OSD guy said it looked like our offices got the worst of it. And then it got crazy for a while. I don't remember much. The police and the firemen were waving everybody back. More and more trucks were coming. So we walked away. We got on Army Navy Drive and we kept walking all the way to the end.
To Crystal City?
I guess. I stopped in this tiny park and sat down on a bench, and I tried to think what happened. The whole world I had known that morning was gone. I finally got out of my fog and had one successful thought. Do you know what it was?
The donut.
I wondered if it was still there. Isn't that grotesque? All of the people I worked with dead, and God knows who did it, and who knew if it was over or not, if there were more planes smashing into buildings somewhere, the White House or the Capitol. Everything had changed. Everything. And all I could think about was a cake donut with chocolate glaze with nuts.
What happened to the office?
They sealed it off. It was destroyed. I guess the donut got stale. We've been wandering around like gypsies ever since. Crystal City, Clarendon, now Roslyn.
Roslyn. Is it nice?
It is. The plumbing works all the time. So do the lights.
I'm not sure I can imagine that.
The sinks have marble tops. The lights are new. Just think, we went through all of that. And now we're living better than we ever did.
You deserve to, after all that you went through.
I don't deserve anything. I wasn't there. I wasn't killed. I wasn't harmed in any way. And a woman who sat 5 feet from me had her remains sent back to Indiana.
It could have been prevented.
Who could have done that?
All kinds of people. Security police, air traffic controllers. Doesn't someone have to give these planes permission to take off?
Of course.
So why wasn't anyone suspicious enough to turn them away?
Nobody knew.
Of course they knew.
Not that they were a threat. No one had any evidence.
There was evidence. They knew.
Who did?
Somebody knew.
Do you think they all dropped the ball?
Somebody did.
Who?
Whoever's supposed to keep this kind of thing from happening. The FBI, the CIA, immigration. Somebody needs to be looking out for our safety at home. If this kind of thing is possible, then what is life except the big beasts eating the little ones?
I agree. But who is it? Who is supposed to keep us safe?
God!
God?
When everybody else gives up, who do we have? God, right? Oh God, our help in ages past.
I don't think so.
Vivian, you are the most religious person I have ever known. Are you telling me you don't believe in God?
Let's just say I'm reviewing the situation.
What?
God and I have hit one of those rough patches where we're not talking to each other right now.
This is not like you.
I don't care who it's like. I've been a Christian all my life. I've done those selfless things that Christians are supposed to do. I've rendered good to those who were doing their level best to render evil to me. But now, I just don't know.
Is there any reason for this?
There is. I feel betrayed.
By God?
And by his church.
What for?
Something that happened after the attack.
What happened?
I got locked out of church. It was the Sunday morning after 9/11.
Uh-huh.
I went to 12 o'clock mass, but I was late getting out of the house. I couldn't find my driving glasses anywhere. I didn't get to the church until a quarter past, and I went up to the door and I tried to open it, and it was locked. What did they think? That after the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, Osama bin Laden was going to go after St. Ignatius of Loyola? They never locked the door before, not during mass. Catholics are never on time. I had gone to church with these people for 30 years, and now they were locked inside and I was on the street.
I'm sure there were reasons.
I don't care what their reasons were. I drove back home and I haven't gone back since. They said the churches started filling up again after 9/11. People were going who hadn't been in years. I wasn't one of them. You should be getting to your appointment, and I have to feed the meter again.
Why aren't you in the parking garage?
I didn't even try. Yesterday, it took me half an hour to find space. Life's too short for that.
It is.
Will you be all right?
Of course.
Are you going to do it again?
Do what?
Are you going to sing?
I am.
I suppose you're going to wait until I get back.
I'd prefer to, of course, but I won't if you won't.
Won't what?
Come back.
Of course I'll come back.
Then I'll wait.
I was afraid of that. Why do you insist on doing this?
I've told you why. I'm trying to find someone.
But you don't know who.
Not yet.
How will you know?
When I find him.
Antoinette,
You don't have to be here.
what is the big secret?
There's no secret.
Nobody knows what you're doing.
I'm singing.
In the middle of nowhere.
This isn't nowhere.
Might as well be. And why, for heaven's sake, why Amazing Grace?
What's wrong with Amazing Grace?
It's the kind of song they sing in the metro.
What?
No, in the metro during the holidays. People are minding their own business and suddenly somebody starts singing Ave Maria or Amazing Grace. And then they walk through the car with a hat stretched out for money. I want to break the window and escape.
That's how I make you feel.
I'm afraid you're going to ask me to pass the hat. I haven't even got a hat.
Why should it bother you? The only one who's making an actual fool of herself is me. You don't have to be here.
Then why do you only sing when I am?
I like the company.
You need the company.
Why don't you go feed your meter?
You'll be all right.
I'm fine.
I'll be back.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I didn't want to interrupt. I saw you speaking with your friend.
She went out to rescue her car.
Oh, I won't take long. My name is Susan Bartlett. I'm the Director of Marketing and Community Outreach.
Hello. I'm Antoinette Demers.
I know. Mr. Davison told me all about you.
Sean? He's been talking about me?
Yes. He pointed you out to me last week. Your story is very inspiring.
I'm surprised he stopped talking long enough to realize I had a story.
He knows all about you.
Really?
Mhm.
Huh.
about being a survivor of 9/11 and how you helped the others to safety just after you lost consciousness and your long struggle to put your life back together.
Did I do that?
It's very inspiring.
I guess people want to be inspired.
This is such a crucial time for our country, and to think that you were actually there.
I guess I was lucky.
I didn't mean it that way. I know you were badly hurt. I'm sorry about that. But you did survive, and you were actually there. Our outreach groups would love to hear your story, if you were willing to talk to them.
What kind of groups?
People from the community. We put a program on every month, and of course, September 11th is on everyone's mind. And to be honest with you, our board of directors is a little concerned that our story isn't being told. We're not as well known as some of the bigger hospitals. And when people make donations for 9/11, which a lot of them presently are, they tend to think about the other hospitals and not about us. But we were part of 9/11 too. We responded, we treated victims, and you are living proof.
So you're looking for money.
Among other things, yes. We have to stay competitive. You can't imagine how much it costs to run this place. But the main thing is that you are one of America's heroes. You should be recognized and get the credit you deserve. And we want to make sure that you do.
America's heroes?
Of course.
But how did you come to the conclusion that I am a hero?
You survived the attack.
So did you.
But I wasn't there.
Why weren't you?
Because I was here at work.
And I was there at work. What difference does it make?
All the difference in the world.
I don't see how.
Please, don't be modest. The ones that died that day are heroes. So are the ones who didn't.
I'm sure you mean well, but you really don't know what you're talking about.
I think I do.
All right. Let's say the people who died that day are heroes. What heroic thing were they doing when they died?
Ordinary things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They were at work, so they must have been working.
Some of them were. Some were getting coffee. Some were waiting for the morning meeting to get out. What they were doing that day wasn't any different from what they would have been doing on any other day. How do you make heroes out of that?
It wasn't the same. What they did was different because the day was different. It was like the day that John F. Kennedy was shot.
You can't be old enough to remember that.
No, but my mother was. She said she had just put dinner in the oven. It was meatloaf with mushroom gravy. She said she must have made that recipe 1,000 times. But if you asked her what happened on any of the other 999 days she made meatloaf with mushroom gravy, she wouldn't have a clue. But she knows with an absolute certainty that on November 22nd, 1963, she made meatloaf with mushroom gravy. And we had peach cobbler for dessert. I'm not making this up. A lot of people feel the same way. Whatever they were doing when they died, no matter how ordinary it was, became heroic because they died in this horrible incident that nobody will ever forget. That's how people feel. You don't realize it because you were there.
Miss Bartlett, don't romanticize the dead. If the only differences between the heroes and the rest of us is that they had the bad luck to get killed and we didn't, there's not much to be said for heroism. There were heroes on September 11th. There were. Some of them are dead, some are not.
It isn't romanticism. It's that when something happens like this, something so huge and horrible, you can't just let it go and say that it was ordinary. It wasn't. Nothing about it was. We can't let it go.
If you're looking for heroes, don't look at me. I didn't do one heroic thing. I did the opposite. I panicked. If it hadn't been for a real hero, I would certainly not be here.
You mean someone saved you?
Yes.
Who?
I don't know. I've never seen his face.
How did he save you?
I was sending a fax when the air... I was all by myself. The explosion knocked me to the floor. The next thing I knew, the fax machine was landing on top of me. The tiles were coming out of the ceiling. Everything was flying off of the walls. I started to crawl toward the exit, but there was smoke and dust, computers, clocks, a bulletin board, piles of paper all over the place. You couldn't see 10 feet. I thought for sure, there's no way I'll get out alive. And then I heard a voice.
Somebody called to you?
He didn't call, he sang.
What did he sing?
Amazing Grace.
Really?
Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. He sang the first phrase over and over, as if he were looking for someone to answer him.
And that's all?
That's all I can remember. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with a bunch of tubes in my arm. I asked the doctors if someone had carried me out. They said someone had, but they didn't know who. I've been looking for that man ever since. He's the hero, not me.
You never saw his face?
No. I was crawling on my hands and knees. There was smoke everywhere.
You don't have any idea who he was?
His voice was very calm. Most people in that situation you'd expect to panic, but he didn't. I guess I thought he might have been a paramedic or a fireman.
It sounds like the policeman. You know, the one from Hawaii who told people to walk towards his voice? It was on the news. I don't mean to say that you got confused or
I'm not confused. He was not a Hawaiian policeman, and I know what I'm talking about. He sang Amazing Grace.
Did he have an accent?
From Africa, maybe, or the Middle East.
The Middle East.
Yes. Does it make a difference?
It might.
How?
Some of our outreach groups include potential donors who might be inclined to contribute on the spot if they were moved by what they heard. What I'm saying is, we need to optimize the chances of obtaining a positive response. A non-native speaker might not be optimal.
Are you saying that this hero needs to be American?
It would help.
Would he have to be white?
No, not at all. African Americans, Native Americans, all of those are good possibilities
How
for.
about someone from India?
Do you know somebody like that?
My taxman. He's from New Delhi. Came to this country in the early 60s. He married a girl from Philadelphia. Their kids went to Penn State. His daughter is on TV. She does commercials for The Gap. Can you be more American than that? He called the office after the attack to see if I was all right. Of course, the office was gone. It took a long time before he found anyone who even knew who I was. I got a message on my machine one day to call the FBI because a man with a Middle Eastern accent was asking about me, and they thought he might be one of them. I had to laugh. He's been living the American life for 30 years, but he never lost his New Delhi accent, so now he's one of them.
I'm afraid it's going to be like that for a while.
Why?
Because we're at war. The president said it. It's a war on terrorism. Whoever isn't with us is against us. You can't have your enemies looking and sounding the same as your friends.
Of course you can. What does a terrorist look like? If he's a smart one, he looks like nobody at all. In Oklahoma City, the terrorist was a clean-cut American, young, white man driving a pickup truck. He hated America as much as anyone.
I know what you're saying. The lines aren't clear, but until this is over, they have to be. Otherwise, how will we know who our enemies are?
Listen to me! I never saw the men who wanted to kill me. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. I understand they hated my way of life. Is that supposed to be a surprise? There are times I hate my way of life. When it takes me 2.5 hours to get home, I want to blow things up. But my hate goes away. Theirs never did. They hated things they couldn't control. Capitalism, the Pentagon. All they could think to do was take as many lives as they could before they died. If it hadn't been for that man, mine would have been one of them.
Do you think he's going to show up here?
He might. It's possible. He could have been injured that day. Maybe he comes here for therapy.
Well, I hope you find him. And if you do, I'd like to meet him. I don't think the accent will be an issue.
Really?
Really.
I have to find him first.
Physical therapy is down the hall from me. Would you like me to take you there?
Thank you.
What about your friend?
She can catch up.
I hope she didn't get towed.
Act 2.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
Have you seen a ball cap?
You mean a baseball cap?
Actually, it's a Chip's ball cap, but yeah, the same idea. And I came out with it on my break. I had it right on my head, and now I can't find it anywhere.
Doesn't seem to be here.
Oh man, if I lose it, I'm gonna be ticked. I got that sucker back in
Vietnam?
yeah, getting to be ancient history now. But that ball cap and I were friends for life. Hey, you know what? Are you the lady who picks up Miss Demers?
That's right. I'm Vivian.
No, Sean. Nice. She's a nice lady.
Yeah, she is.
Gutsy lady. She's a fighter.
You know what she calls you?
Oh God, what?
Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, my role model. Yeah, she rags on me all the time. On a good day, she could make a sailor blush.
I'm sure she could. Were you a sailor?
Actually, I was. In Nam, the Riverine patrols. Task Force 117, the ASPBs 67, 68. You know what? She would have been right at home. She can get downright eloquent. I enjoy it. It's part of the deal.
What deal?
Therapy. I mean, you got to have a little fire in you. A lot of people hunker down and quit, and their body can't do it, but their mind says it can't. And in case of a tie, the mind wins every time.
What do you do with her in therapy?
Lots of stuff. It's called scar rehabilitation. You know, she's got some pretty bad ones. Not that you can see, but they're for real. You can't give in to a scar. It'll mess you up. Your fluids, your mobility, eventually everything comes to a stop.
Everything?
Everything that's worth doing. I mean, they did some nice skin grafts on her. That's a start, but a skin graft has got to be educated so it'll move the way the old skin did, and it won't be an easy ride.
What kinds of things do you do with her?
No, I use the whole toolbox. You know, paraffin baths, pressure coverings. She hates those, by the way. Lots of manipulation. I put her body in positions it was never meant to be in, so we can get the skin to move.
How long is this supposed to take?
Well, exactly, I couldn't say. But anytime you get burns like that, you got a long trip home.
Did you get into this work when you were in the Navy?
Yeah, I didn't plan to, but the old GI Bill paid for it, and one thing led to another, and so here I am.
Were you a therapist in the Navy?
Me? No, I was a radio man, gunner, shot whatever there was to shoot. Machine gun, grenade launcher, you know, shooting at people you couldn't see.
What kind of patrols did you say?
Riverine. Did you ever hear them? You know, the Mekong Delta, pacifying the countryside, floating down the river on the ASPBs, the assault support patrol boats, 5 guys in a boat no bigger than your front porch.
Really?
Yeah, close quarters. Lord. More information than you'd ever want. I didn't actually mind it as much as everyone pretended to. You know what? I miss the Navy sometimes, but Nam was something else. At least we weren't freezing our butts up in the mountains like they're doing in Afghanistan. Tora Bora Mountains. Doesn't that sound like something out of the old road films? You know, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, The Road to Tora Bora with Dorothy Lamour. Boy, did we bomb the hell out of that zip code.
Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what was the point?
Of what?
Bombing Afghanistan. It looked like it had been bombed already.
No, yeah, it was for sure. I mean, don't you remember? Back in the 80s, the Russians did a slam dunk on all that real estate. I guess they were the Soviets then, but yeah, Afghanistan got clean big time. I don't think it ever came back.
So what's the point?
You're kidding, right? I mean, you watch the news.
I know what they say on the news, but why do you think we're bombing Afghanistan?
You're kidding, right? Because the Taliban hid bin Laden.
And
Take out the Taliban, you get bin Laden. Set the den on fire, the fox comes out.
except that he hasn't.
Oh, we don't know that he hasn't.
We don't know that he has.
Not yet.
We're still not sure what happened to him, if anything did. I mean, even if we capture him, what are we going to do with him?
Oh, come on. People are lining up with ideas about that.
I know, but what can he legally be accused of?
Killing 3,000 people, that's what?
But he didn't personally do that.
No, but his people did.
And where did his people come from? Afghanistan?
Some of them, but most of them came from, where was it? Saudi Arabia.
So why aren't we bombing Saudi Arabia?
Huh?
Set the den on fire, the foxes come out.
Yeah, but you can't go after just anybody's den.
Why not? They went after ours.
Bad juju? I mean, you can't bomb Saudi Arabia.
Why not?
Because they've got oil, Mercedes, SUV. Nobody bombs a country with SUVs.
Ah, you mean they're rich.
Well, richer than me.
So the only countries we bomb are poor ones?
Maybe we do. But you didn't hear it from me. Look, I know what you're trying to say. You've got to draw a line in the sand somewhere. You can't let the bad guys win. The only question is, whose sand?
Not Saudi Arabia's.
You know what? You know what I think the story really is?
What?
I think we got tired of getting kicked in the head. You know, we were everybody's sugar daddy. Everyone's policeman, putting out fires that should have burned. And when things got bad, when things got really bad, what did everyone do? You know what? They blamed it on the Americans. You can't go wrong. And eventually we got sick of it. People talk about getting back to normal, but I'm here to tell you, there is no normal to get back to. Life as we know it in the good old days is toast. I mean, September 11th changed everything. When you think about it, maybe normal never existed.
What do you mean?
I mean, everyone thinks there was a time, sometime, I don't know when everyone was safe. You could leave your kids with the neighbors, leave your doors unlocked, but maybe we only think that way because the danger never got close to us. I mean, maybe somebody else was getting clobbered, but it wasn't us. So not my problem. On 9/11, all of a sudden, you know what it was? We finally woke up and realized what a jungle it was because one of the big beasts finally pounced on us. But there have always been big beasts, lots of them, waiting for somebody to come along, not paying attention. Before they know it, they're lunch.
That's a pretty brutal way to look at it.
But isn't life pretty brutal in general? It is for the lions and the tigers and the bears. I mean, those guys spend most of their time trying to eat and not get eaten. It's a full-time job. There ain't much Miller time out there. We'd like to think we're above it all. Yeah, I sure would. But maybe we're not. I mean, there is always somebody working on advantages.
What kinds of advantages?
A sharper claw, a keener sense of smell, a pair of jaws that could chomp a bone in half. If one guy in the jungle gets an edge, I don't care what the rules are. The next guy in the chain of life is lunch.
But you're talking about something that takes millions of years.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, these guys have time. Whoever gets a leg up on the other guy in his zip code, he is a king for the day. I mean, that's what it's all about. Al-Qaeda, Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, maybe they're just big beasts on the prowl. You know, they don't have bigger jaws, but they have got something else. They got hate. They got more hatred than we'll ever have, more than we can ever imagine having, because we've never been down that low. And they know how to wait. They're really good at that. They work out at the gym. They learn how to fly planes. They keep their papers in order and they bid their time. And finally it comes. The 11th of September, year of our Lord, 2001. Clear out the wide blue yonder. A bunch of nice, hardworking folks wake up to the fact that this time they are lunch. And you know what? You know what? It can happen again. It can. Because the terrorists who hijack those planes are only the first in line. I mean, there's plenty more of them, and they've got axes to grind and hatred to spare. And they're standing in line. They're biding their time, and they're waiting for their September 11th to come.
My God, if the world is really as savage as that, who would even want to live in it?
No, but you can live. You can even live well, relatively well, but you have to calibrate.
What do you mean calibrate?
You have to calibrate your expectations, like putting air in your tires.
Would you mind explaining that?
All right. So you inflate your tires. You pump them up to what? The manufacturer specs?
Of course.
Actually, I put a couple of extra pounds in, you know, for handling, but you know what I mean. You hit the specs, don't overinflate, and life is good. But go over the max and it blows up in your face. You invest too much air in anything and you're toast. And life is a temporary arrangement. You're here today, gone tomorrow.
But I'd like to make it as predictable as possible.
And I'm with you. I am all for security, but I'm here to tell you we're going about it all the wrong way.
How are we doing that?
All right, so let's take the airports. Okay, we're at the airports. We got security. Finally. The Army, the National Guard, the camis, the M16s, and I am impressed. I am. I didn't think America was ever going to take security seriously. But the whole problem is security doesn't produce anything.
Of course it does. It produces
Nothing.
not nothing.
No, no, don't get me wrong. Nothing is not bad. Nothing is good. Nothing is exactly what you want. No snipers on your balcony, no 757s crashing into your fax machine.
That's right. People want to do their jobs. They want to be able to get through the day in one piece.
And I agree. Good security lets you get on with life. But think about this, who's providing it?
You said it yourself, the National Guard.
And who is the National Guard? Who are they when they're not in uniform? Where do they come from?
From everywhere. They all have other jobs.
And my point exactly. They have other jobs. They have useful jobs. They install air conditioners. They fix people's roofs. They do your taxes. And you know what? They fix my truck. But now, what's going on? Are they doing all that stuff? I'm here to tell you they are not. So now whose roof is leaking and whose taxes are not getting paid while these guys are off doing homeland security? And when I take in my truck next week, are they going to tell me I can't get new brakes because their truck guy is at the airport checking unwrapped Christmas packages? You see what I mean? Somebody's got to do the work. Somebody's got to keep it going, or we'll end up like Afghanistan. A guy with a gun on every corner, but nothing in sight worth caring about.
You've been thinking about this way too much.
And somebody's got to. I mean, we fall asleep on a regular basis. And when reality hits, it's always a kick in the butt. It was the same in Vietnam. We go tooling down the Delta and we put the rough pup, the Vietnamese, ashore, and they go off to look for Charlie. And we drop anchor and we'd wait. You know what? If it was dark and quiet, sometimes you could start to feel what was going to happen next. And sometimes, but then some other times, the thing that ended up happening was the thing that you'd expected least.
Like an airplane crashing into the Pentagon.
You could have waited for a lifetime. You'd never feel that one coming. Sometimes life isn't in anybody's cards. I mean, we were dropping off the ARVN Marines one time, and they're going ashore, and nothing in particular is happening. And this guy named Eddie Soames. Eddie and I were buds from back in the day. We hung together, we drank beer together. We smoked the same brand of cigarettes, Lucky Strikes, because that's what both our dads used to smoke. That night after we dropped the ARVN off, and he went back aft on the fantail. That's the rear end of the ship. And took out one of his Lucky Strikes. Pulled out a box of matches. Eddie never used a lighter. Always wooden matches out of a box. And he lit the cigarette. And just like that, he dropped on the deck and he was gone. We never saw where the shots came from. One burst from out of the dark somewhere, and not even much of a noise. 10 seconds before, he was lighting a Lucky Strike. 10 seconds later, he was a corpse. Just another kid on the River Rhine patrols. You know, I wanted to mourn for him because that's the right thing to do, the human thing. But I'm thinking there's a pretty good handout with a gun out there who's getting ready to make a number out of me. So I dragged him below and we got the hell out of there. I was only a kid when I went to Vietnam. And it seemed like everyone else around me was a kid too. We all had the same stories, you know, the football stories, the dumb things we did on Saturday nights. And there were older guys around, don't get me wrong, but it didn't seem that they ever got killed. It was always the young guys, the 19, the 20, the 22. My dad used to send me articles from the op-ed page in the hometown paper because he liked the writers. And sometimes on the back page would be an obituary of a guy who had died someplace in Vietnam. And usually I wouldn't know the guy. But I'd always think, you know what? You change that name, you change that face in the picture, and it could have been me. The man says that it's a war, a global war on terrorism. And yeah, he's right. A lot of people wonder if it makes sense for us to be in it. But we can't sit around waiting for the war to we want. You know, we've got to fight the one we've been handed. And we can't wait for it to make sense. Because nothing about war makes sense. I mean, it isn't a thing that's rational. It's not something that rational human beings do. You shouldn't try to fight wars and figure them out at the same time.
But wouldn't you want to know what you're fighting for?
I know what everybody says we're fighting for. I know what they said back then, but you know, it's not the truth.
Why not?
Because when you get into it, war isn't about defeating terrorism, nor pacifying the countryside or about anything big at all. You know, it's about keeping your butt alive. Yours and the butt of the guy who happens to be next to you. The Marine or the corpsman or the gunner in the after turret, and you hope that he's thinking the same thing about yours. You know what? You need that guy. You can't do it alone. If you want to tell your ward stories at the VFW hall or walk your daughter down the aisle, or get old with your old lady, you look out for number 1 and number 2. You can take the objective or land the Marines, capture the prisoners, that's fine, because that's what you were ordered to do. But when you take it moment by moment, which is what you tend to have to do with these things, your basic personal objective is to make tomorrow possible. Patriotism isn't the tiebreaker. Everybody's patriotic, everybody's scared. The tiebreaker is the last quick reaction that you had, or the last little piece of dumb luck that followed you around. And sooner or later, it all gets very personal. Maybe you go into the same war that a lot of other guys went into, and maybe the reasons were all big reasons, and maybe the reasons were all the same. But when you come out of it, if you do, the war that you come out of is nobody else's but yours.
Hey, Einstein.
Oh man, what happened?
You tell me.
Where did you find it?
In the paraffin tank.
Which one?
The one at the end.
What number?
A number?
Yeah, I numbered the tanks. It's a system.
I don't pay any attention to your system.
Oh God, give me a break.
You give me a break. I'm stuck in this room with a bunch of people to do paraffin. It's not even my job. I feel like Madame Tussaud. I'm about ready to start charging admission.
You didn't leave them all alone.
No, Sammy's in there.
Oh God, Sammy doesn't know what he's doing.
You think I do? I do massages. I don't do wax. I can't even tell which one's on which dip.
That's what the numbers are for.
You need to get back in there.
Yeah, well, just give me a minute.
You've been out here 20 minutes already.
I have not.
Taking your smoke break.
I quit smoking a month ago.
Doesn't matter. You still take smoke breaks. You just do it without cigarettes. What are you rattling on to all these defenseless?
I wasn't rattling on.
Yeah, look, this is one pitiful sight. He been bothering you?
He asked me if I'd seen his hat.
Yeah, well, you saw it. Bet you wish you hadn't. Some things not meant to last.
Oh, no. There is life in this sucker yet.
Where?
I've got to go.
You do.
Are you coming?
I got a massage coming in at 3. You get your system back together. I'll be there.
How long will you be?
As long as it takes. Go on. That young man is one piece of work.
He is a bit intense.
He's entitled.
I don't understand.
Did he tell you about Eddie Soames?
The one who was killed?
Lighting his cigarette.
How did you know?
A whole story. No matter how he starts, he always comes around to Eddie Soames. Did he tell you they were friends?
From back in the day.
Yes, in 3rd grade.
Really?
They went to school together, summer camp, prom, enlisted together, went to boot camp together, Vietnam, the riverine patrols. Eventually, they ended up together on the same 7-man patrol boat. Figure the odds of that.
And he was there when he died.
He was holding him when he died.
He didn't tell me that.
No, he usually doesn't. Best friends for 11 years. When you're only 19, that's half your life. Your best friend scratches a match and lights his lucky strike. Next thing you know, he's gone. Not a thing anyone can do. People who go to war, the ones who are there when the killing gets done, they're not like us. They got demons we can't begin to imagine. Hey, he's always saying there's 2 kinds of people, you know, like Yankee fans and people who wish they were. Most of the time, I know, right? Most of the time it's hot air. But people who've been to war, I've seen them come and go. There's basically 2 types. The ones who never want to talk about it again, and the ones who feel like they got to fight everything that comes along.
Which kind is he?
Depends on the day. Depends on the memories. Like, I better get back. My name's Ella.
I'm Vivian.
Good luck to you, Vivian.
And the same to you.
Thank you for bringing me back.
I'll be in touch. Goodbye.
Bye.
So, what did the therapist say?
More tests? These people love their tests. Saccade test, Pursuit test, ENG,
What's that?
electronystomography,
Has that got something to do with balance?
apparently.
How long will it take?
She said 2.5 hours. And look at all of this stuff I can't do. No alcohol for 24 hours, no smoking, no caffeine for 2 hours, no food for 3 hours, and I have to have someone drive me home.
What time does it start?
At 2?
2.5 hours, 4:30.
Will that be a problem?
No, I'll leave work at 4. Are you ready to go?
One more thing, as you know.
Do you have to do this?
Just humor me.
My humor supply is getting low.
Don't need to tell me.
If it doesn't work out, how long do you intend to keep trying?
As long as it takes.
And do you expect me to be here for this each and every time?
You can be wherever you like.
Does Evelyn do this?
Evelyn goes for coffee.
You never told me that.
She tried it once. She said it felt silly and she wouldn't do it anymore.
Why didn't I think of that?
Because Evelyn is Evelyn and you are you.
Why do you feel you need to find this man?
I want to thank him.
Of course you do, but there must be something else.
I guess I wonder why I lived when so many other people died.
Do you feel guilty about that?
I guess I do.
Really?
Well, wouldn't you? Silly question.
So we're motivated by the same things. Guilt.
I guess we are. Do you feel better?
I do.
I'm glad we cleared that up. I think.
Where do you want me to sit?
Wherever you like.
I'll sit next to you. But first, I really need to go to the ladies' room. Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
You'll be all right?
I'll be fine. Go.
You'll be here?
Right here. Electronystomography. Ugh. What am I getting into? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
That saved a wretch like me.
Who's that? I once was lost, but now am found.
Was blind, but now I see. Hello.
Hello. Are you the man who
What?
were you on September the 11th? Were you at the Pentagon
I was?
on the second floor?
Second floor, yes.
C ring?
C-ring, yes.
Fourth corridor?
Or I was.
You were the singer. You sang Amazing Grace.
And you sang back to me.
I did.
And you got out.
I did.
I am so glad.
You saved my life.
You saved your own life. I just showed you where to go.
You didn't pick me up
When?
when I passed out.
When did you do that?
I don't know. All I can remember is I heard you singing. I sang to you. I followed your voice. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital. I must have fainted. And somebody picked me up and took me out of there. I thought that it was you.
I've never seen you before.
That it was somebody else.
It must have been a fireman, maybe.
But I thought you were a fireman.
Me? A fireman? Don't you recognize me?
I'm sorry, I don't. Should I?
I'm the man who picks up the trash
In the office?
in all of the offices. Third corridor through sixth, including the restrooms. That's a lot of trash.
Where were you when it happened?
In corridor 3, I was taking a trash bin to the elevator and I heard a noise. A lot of people were walking fast. Somebody said there was a bomb. They didn't notice me. That's how a lot of people are with the cleaning crew. Like we're invisible.
But why did you go to my office?
I was worried about a lady in there. When I pick up the trash, she opens the door and she goes with me to make sure that I don't see any of your classified stuff. Huh? We talk sometimes. And when the airplane hit the Pentagon, I got afraid for her. So I went to your office. I got to the door and it wasn't locked. And I said, that isn't right. That door is always locked. I looked inside, but all I could see was dust and smoke, nobody coming out, and sirens going off everywhere. I couldn't hear a thing.
But why did you sing?
I don't know why. I just, maybe, if you listen to the radio
Mhm.
and someone's talking and it isn't turned up loud enough, it's hard, the words. But if there's a song on and you know the words, you can hear just fine. I thought maybe if anyone is still in there alive, I'll try to sing and maybe they will hear me.
Why Amazing Grace?
It was my English teacher's favorite song.
Where did you learn English?
In Tunisia, she made me learn every word, even wretch. I said, there is a W, there is a T. How can that be wretch? She said, it's a crazy language. Nothing is spelled the way it sounds. Just
True.
go with it. She told me, you learn English, you can go anywhere. You can be a citizen of the world. I said, can I get out of Tunisia? She said, possibly. So I said, okay, wretch is wretch. If it helps me get out of Tunisia.
That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found.
Was blind, but now I see. I looked for you when I heard your voice, but I couldn't see anything.
I thought I was crawling toward your voice, but maybe I wasn't.
It was a big confusion. Did anyone else get out?
Only two other people who weren't there at the time. One of is the lady who brought me here.
I'm sorry for the ones who died. My friend who opened the door, do you know her? She was short, her hair was blonde. She wore running shoes because of her feet.
Rosemary!
Yes, Rosemary. Did she get out?
No, she didn't.
I'm sorry. She was a nice lady.
Yes, she was. But what happened to you? Did you get hurt?
The gas and smoke got into my lungs. They said I inhaled jet fuel. I've been getting treatments here.
When do you go back to work?
I don't know if I can.
Why not?
They might not take me back. They brought in a big company after 9/11 to clean up the mess.
Mm-hmm.
They cleaned everything. They even took the covers off the fluorescent lights and cleaned the bulbs. We were good cleaners, but we never did that.
But doesn't the regular crew go back to work?
Go back where? The section where we used to work is a big hole. They're going to rebuild it, okay, but that could take a long time. And in the meantime, what do I do?
But surely they've got something for you.
Maybe. After the treatment is done, my boss said, come around, we'll see.
But it wasn't your fault that you got hurt.
No,
Then you should get your old job back, no questions asked.
I don't know. Maybe not.
It isn't fair.
Maybe not.
You should take them to court.
Who?
Your company. You should sue them to get your job back.
Courts cost money. Lawyers want money up front. My brother-in-law went through all that. The lawyers got the money. He ended up with not much.
How long does your treatment last?
A couple more weeks. I've been looking around, but no one is hiring. The restaurants, hotels, they all say that the tourists, they don't come anymore. They can't afford to keep the help that they've got.
So what are you going to do?
I'll figure something out. Don't worry about me.
How can you be so positive.
Oh, you don't know? I bet you've lived in America all your life.
Yes, I have.
See, you don't know
Don't know what.
the chances you have, the opportunities. You
Mhm.
have no idea. This is still the place to be. I would take my chances in America before 100 countries I could name. You work hard, you get a chance to make a better life. Huh? Do you know what that means? There are places where you work until you die and you end up in the same stupid rut. You've got ruts here too, but they're easier to get out of. I'll be all right. There is always something coming along. Maybe I'll be a security guard. Huh? What do you think of that? Huh? Nice uniform, but no camouflage. I've seen enough of that. I have to go now. My brother is picking me up. I am so glad I met you.
Thank you. And God bless you.
God bless you too, ma'am. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Why do I always remind people of people they know? I thought I would never get out of there. Do I remind you of anyone you know?
Just yourself.
Maybe I looked like I was interested. I was trying not to be. Are you ready to sing?
We can skip it.
What?
I said we can skip it. There's no need anymore.
Why not?
I found him.
You did? When?
Just now.
You mean while I was gone?
That's right. I talked with him.
Are you sure it was him?
I'm sure.
How could you tell?
I could.
But you never saw him before.
I know, but I know it was him.
So who is this guy?
A janitor.
A janitor? In the Pentagon?
He used to clean our office. Maybe you remember him.
I never paid any attention to the cleaning people. They were in a world of their own.
We all were. September 11th was a Tuesday. Like any other Tuesday. Carpool, resource council, lunch with Evelyn, pick up the dry cleaning, carpool home. I never picked up the clothes. Will we ever get back to normal?
I hope so. I'm getting tired of singing God Bless America. It was never one of my favorite songs.
I wonder if America will survive.
Of course it will. How can you say that?
I don't know. Do you think the Romans thought they were going to go on forever?
What have the Romans got to do with anything?
The Romans are us. We are the Romans of today. We're in charge of the world. All that we care to think about. So were they. Maybe they thought that the army, the roads, the walls, and all of the rest of it would keep them on top, but they got soft, decadent, and somebody figured it out. Maybe the people who attacked us on 9/11 thought they saw the same in us. Vivian, do you know what I'm going to do?
No.
I'm going to pull my SF-52.
Your retirement? You can't do that.
I'm quite sure I can.
But why?
Call it a change of plans. You've changed plans before. Hmm?
But you said you were through with it. The crazy hours, the micromanagers.
I know. I know it will all be there, and I'll have to deal with it. I know all that. But I need to go back.
Like a hole in the head. What made you change your mind?
That man did.
The janitor?
I never even asked his name.
How did he change your mind?
He made me ashamed of myself. He's out of a job. He's got nothing to fall back on. But he doesn't complain. He doesn't go on about all that he's been cheated of, and he surely has. He's going to go back out and look and keep looking until he finds a job, and he's going to get back on track. That's what I have to do.
You know, dear, if they had gone through all that you did, 9.5 out of 10 people would say that life is too short. They'd head for the nearest exit from this grind and get themselves to someplace sane and enjoy whatever it is that's left. And in case you're wondering, if I could retire, that's exactly what I would do.
I understand. There are times I wouldn't want anyone's career, but there's something else.
What else?
There's work to do. The country has got to be defended. It always has, and we fall asleep to the fact that there are bad actors in the world, and whenever they get to us, it's a slap in the face. This one was the biggest slap of them all, and we've got to get organized. Organizing is what I do. And if I have to go back to the dog-eared old Pentagon to do it, that's where I'll go. I can't go yet. Not well enough yet. But as soon as I am, I'll get my hall pass back and I'll see what I can do.
You're sure?
It's what I have to do if I want to face myself.
I think you love your country.
I think I do. It's a good country. It's got plenty of faults. I know all about that. Someone is always unhappy. Someone will always let you know. But we let them complain because they have the right. It's noisy. It's messy. Sometimes it feels like a bad chemistry experiment. Is that what somebody said? It's a lively experiment in democracy.
Some experiments are livelier than others.
And some of them blow up in your face.
They do.
And when they do, you clean up the mess. And hopefully you learn a lesson and then you go back to work. You press on.
That's what you want to do.
It is.
Then let's press on to my car before I have to feed that stupid meter again. I'll take you home.
Yes, dear. Let's go home. And let's get ready for tomorrow.
This evening, the Just a Stage I'm Going Through production group has brought you a performance of Stephen LaRocque's play, September 11th was a Tuesday. I want to again recognize our players this afternoon. Jacqueline Hume played Antoinette. Heather Fife played Vivian. Sarah Lockhart played Susan. Greg Lang played Sean. Aaron Klarner played Ella. And Omar Lettieri played Victor. Thank you, Omar. I would now like to ask the playwright, Stephen LaRocque, to turn on his video to be recognized. Stephen? There he is. As noted earlier, there he is again. In a moment, Mr. LaRocque will be available for a talkback with audience members and the cast. I'm Stuart Fisher, the producer and director of this production, as well as the founder of Just a Stage I'm Going Through Productions. Our technical director is Aaron Klarner. Please join us for the final 2 Zoom readings of Just a Stage I'm Going Through second season. On Sunday afternoon, February 12th, we will present a reading of the Mercury Theater's 1946 radio broadcast of Jane Eyre. Finally, on Sunday evening, March the 5th, we will present the Zoom premiere of Paul Marsh's play, A Final Shabbos. We hope to see you then. Thank you for joining us tonight, and good night.